Hey Jeff, how you doing this evening? Portsmouth Piper, good evening or good morning. Tim, Wolf Valley Boy, Adam B. Well, I'm actually quite pleased. A few minutes ago, there was a huge racket going on in the background. There was a helicopter circling, searching for something. What, I don't know, but it was making an awful racket, but it seems to have gone away now, which I'm glad of. Smoking KY Piper. Well, today I've been smoking, well, this evening, I've been smoking my LCS brandy, I guess you'd call it. Hey, Pipes and Bees. Hey, Skull. I've been noticing that the focusing on this camera has definitely declined in recent times. I'm pretty convinced that Apple fiddle around with the settings when they do updates. I know they got a fine recently for doing something to their phones. And I think they've got more to worry about than pipe smokers at the moment, I would imagine. Hey, Piano Piper. Hi, Doug. Hi, Jordan. Speaking of Jordan, I just literally picked up his tamper that he made me. Chris Garcia. Haven't seen you for a long time. Piano Piper, Brandon, Robert. This is the only pipe I've smoked so far today. My first pipe I had was around, probably around 8 o'clock this evening, and this is still the same bowl. It's about half a bowl of tobacco. I'm really trying to reduce my tobacco intake for the moment during the course of this whole virus thing. So I've been sipping on this, making it last, and doing my best to stay off the cigars as well. I haven't smoked a pipe yet. No, Jordan, I haven't. I've got about 3 or 4 pipes which need breaking in, and I've got others which are, I mean, not that there's any hard and fast rule to it, but I've got a couple of pipes which I've had before that arrived, which need breaking in. And as I say, there's no hard and fast rule, no order to it, but it'll happen in due course, I'm sure. What cigar would I recommend to a beginner? Where are you in the world? That was a question from Adam B. Hey Mike, how you doing? I thought you weren't coming on this evening. In Indianapolis, Indiana. Well, what I would recommend for you, Adam, is an Undercrown Shade. give that a go and see how you get on. That tin, I'm told, is 2017, September 2017. Yep, the Aberdeen. Kev the Pipe. How you doing? Pipes and Bees. Graham Wilson. Hello. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you before. Welcome. Oh, I'm happy to hear that, Mike. So you got your day back. Good evening, Petey. Joe Fish. Hey, North Country. Hope you're all doing well. So we'll see if we can get a few more guys on before I show all the pipes, but in the meantime I think I'll open that tobacco that we pressed. I'm probably not going to stay on for hours and hours like we usually do for 2-3 hours. Hi Josh, how you doing? Maybe try and keep this down to about an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half. Want to get a little bit more sleep than I usually get on a Saturday. I usually get a really poor night's sleep, but with everything that's going on at the moment, I want to be in the best possible shape that I can be. So if I do catch the virus, I want to be in good condition to fight it. So I don't want to go to bed too late. MC Gar. Steph Skip. Alright, so the first order of the day so this is the tobacco press which Josh made for me a while back. I don't use it as often as I ought to because we got those noodle presses, which it's a lot easier to use. But this one really produces a lovely cake, a lovely square shaped cake. Where is my Asquith jar? This is my Asquith jar, and that's what's left. So we've got about half a smoke in there. So it was time to press it. I should have pressed it sooner so that I had a bit of time to gain some age. So let's get it open. This one I pressed last Saturday night live in the London Calling last Saturday night. Right, that's the clamp off. And that's the bottom bit, and this now just needs to be pushed through, hopefully. There we go, that was easy enough. One thing I can tell you is that Josh did a great job making this press. The original idea came from those metal ones that we saw a few years back, that people at the Dagners used, and Stutter. I don't remember who else had them. There was about 2 or 3 of them around the YTPC at the time. Watching people getting the tobacco out of those was like pulling teeth, I should say. They struggled big time with it. But the way Josh made this, I think it's a combination of the exactitude of his measurements and his lining things up, and also the fact that the materials that he used also makes it smooth, and of course my ingenuity of using a sandwich bag, which makes it a lot easier to remove. It's snowing, oh my, it's all happening. So this was 50 grams and it's making almost a wafer thin cake. It's really actually pressed it quite, it's really quite compressed. But it's just so easy when you do it in a bag. Oh, it smells awesome. Well, there it is. So you can see the brighter areas and that really kind of chocolate browny kind of effect where it's really compressed down on those darker tobaccos, the Periques, the Orientals. Has it got Orientals? I can't remember. Boris the Piper, how you doing? So last time I think I let it sit for, it's really quite sticky as well, that sugary goodness really coming to the surface there. That really sort of reflects the light beautifully. It's got a very grassy aroma. It's quite flexible. But this is quite similar, maybe not quite as compressed as last time. It's quite sort of flexible. There, I could break it quite easily. It is quite a bit darker, the last one that I made, but bear in mind that this is quite old. So this was a year ago. I thought it was older than that. Anyway, so that was done a year ago. I think I'm just going to bung it in the same jar. I'll probably have to break it in half. I think to smoke it now would be a bit pointless. I remember last time it needed about 3 months to start to taste good, and obviously with time it tasted better and better, and it really became a treat to smoke this. I didn't smoke it too much because I didn't have that much of it pressed, but it was like a treat to smoke this. It really is a very nice blend. Actually, I'll just curve it round and put it in. Perfect. No, Doug, I don't cube cut it. The last time round, all I did was I took the cake out and I just broke a corner off, rubbed it in between my hands. It rubbed out very, very well, very easily. Don't forget this was all ribbon flakes, which have just been pressed together. So it's even less together than a crumble cake, really, and it falls apart in your hands. But the idea of compressing it like this, it just helps the flavors to marry very, very well. So we'll give that some time in the jar. I need to update that sticker. (15th of March 2020), written the English way, I'm afraid. And that should taste very well in a bit of time. Hi Andrew, how are you doing? All right, what have we got here? 55 people. Okay, so I think we can start to show the items that are going to be going up for the auction. Hey George, how are you doing? I'm actually smoking, very slowly, some Dunhill Flake from 2017. I haven't smoked Dunhill Flake for quite some time. It's very tasty. I'm smoking in my LCS brandy, I suppose you'd call it. It's darkening up quite well. I might even restain this at some point. I don't know. I might just leave it natural. That was one of my first pipes that really took on a good shape. That I was really happy with the shape. Really a classic looking pipe. It's very light, very comfortable, got a nice comfortable bit, nice grain, got a couple of sand pits on the bottom, which is why I didn't sell it. I could have rusticated it, I suppose, but I just decided to keep it. How does the light? Yes, I should really smoke some of that. I got a beautiful aged tin from Andrew, actually. Had some very, very rich flavours. A full bent or an oompole? Maybe. I don't say never, as they say, except perhaps for a diamond shank bulldog, which kind of puts the fear of pipes into me. But that's something I've got to overcome at some point as well. Yeah, absolutely, Josh. I fully understand that. I'm kind of doing the same. I've been nursing this half a bowl of tobacco all evening, and that's all I've had today. And yesterday I think it was about the same, also about half a bowl of tobacco, which I smoked over 2 or 3 different sessions, but really keeping it down low. Jason Trentham enjoying some Orly Golden Slice. That's what we like to hear. No, I didn't touch snuff. I usually take snuff on Saturday, today on the Sabbath, because I can't smoke on Saturday till nightfall, but I didn't touch it. Snuff, I think, is probably worse than any of it, because you're breathing in, taking it in, you're inhaling it. Obviously you can do a shallow inhale with a snuff and just keep it around your nostrils, but I think snuff is, for this particular situation, snuff is probably the worst of the lot. So I haven't touched it. I didn't touch any snuff, and I've been sort of nursing a bit of a smoky throat and sort of a bit of a fuzzy head for a few days, and just I don't think it's coronavirus. I think it's just the usual, lack of sleep and a little bit flu-y, that kind of thing. So I'm just trying to be careful. Yeah, there's a lot of chewing tobacco. People do take a pinch of twists and things like that. Yeah, definitely. Full-on chest infection. Oh dear. So I hope you're on antibiotics, North Country. Well, Piano, at least that's not coronavirus. At least that's not the symptoms that you're displaying there. Alright, so should we start showing the pipes? Hey John, how you doing? Hey Viking. Chewing tobacco, yeah, could be. I think any reduction that you could do through your bronchial tubes is a good thing. Jordan, yeah, I saw your video a bit earlier on. I will keep it live as long as it's there's nothing which goes on which I'm not happy with, which no reason why it should be. The only times I've ever taken them down is if there was some conversation which I wasn't entirely happy about. So yeah, no worries, Jordan. If you like, I'll start with yours before you go. I'm not going to be showing them in any particular order. Not going to show any favoritism or anything like that. Yeah, Jordan, no problem. No problem at all. Alright, so let's start off. We'll start off with Jordan's pipe. This is the second version of the pipe that he made. The first one he wasn't entirely happy with, and kudos to Jordan for doing that, because he's obviously very proud of his work and he wants to make sure that it goes out in the best possible way. So he did me a second version, and here it is. So bearing in mind, everybody, so these are tribute pipes for matches 860 for the Savinelli 673 KS. The 673 KS became the Friday Savinelli some years back. John, matches 860, smoked various pipes over the years on the Friday videos, but certainly in the last few years the 673 KS was known as the Friday Savinelli, and for a good couple of years it was the Roma, the Roma Lucite, which is the model that the Pipe Nook is doing. More latterly, it was I think it was a naked one he was using more latterly as the Friday Savinelli, but he wasn't really doing those Friday videos anymore, at least not in the style that he was for a few years, which was to do an outdoor video most of the time. He'd usually be sitting side on to the camera and just talking to us, telling us a story, telling us something from his past possibly. And it was then that the Friday Savinelli, the Roma Lucite, really became the Friday Savinelli. But the 673 certainly, you could say, was a signature pipe for John. So the idea was to have some artisan pipe makers do their own version of the 673 KS. I didn't give them any parameters. They didn't have to stick to any particular to make it a precise 673 KS. It was just their particular implementation, their version, if you like, of the 673 KS. No, I haven't ordered the one of the Pipe Nook ones. No. Probably if I wasn't doing this, I probably would have done, to be honest, and it would be nice to have one. But this is my tribute. I've made a pipe for it, and I think Eddie's done a fantastic thing. I'm really unhappy with all the trolling that he's been getting over it. I think people know nothing about what's involved in organising it, and yes, he's entitled to make a profit on it, and I hope he does. I hope he makes bundles of money from it. At the same time, he's giving a fantastic amount of money to the family, so I've got no issues with that, and I think he's done a fantastic job. Good luck to him. And the vast majority of people who are complaining about it more likely are jealous than anything else. They're just doing sums in their head and trying to work out what he's making out of it. They don't know what he's paying Savinelli. They have no idea what he's making. That's fine. I'm very happy for him. I think he's done a great thing. I think the community is going to be really happy that they'll have that kind of connection to matches in their collection. The one thing, if I could have an opportunity to do, which I'm sure I won't be able to, is to get one numbered 860, the last one, which I'm sure he will keep for himself, so I'm not even asking. But that would be a cool pipe to have. If he does get to 860, I hope he does order 860 of them. And no doubt he'll keep 860 for himself, I'm sure of that. But that would be one I would like to have if I could. Anywho, so the idea was for the artisan carvers to make their version. So here's the first one. So this is the one made by Jordan, the Prairie Pipe shop. Let me just get some more light on it. So this is a sandblasted, beautiful ring grain, really very precisely sort of positioned. I love the positioning of that ring grain. Traditionally it would have been down there and fanned out of there, but actually I think this works better. Beautiful stem. Jordan does amazing stem work. Very precise. Excuse me. Well drilled. Good overall shape, a good representation of the 673, and he stamped it there, Prairie Pipe Shop 34, which I assume it's pipe number 34 for him, and M860. What have I done with my light? I do this every single time I get on and I can't find my torch, because I'm Mr. Organised, as you well know. Right, we'll have to do it without the light. Anyway, trust me, it's drilled bang on. You can just about make it out there. Let me put my lamp on it. And you can see it. Anyway, it's fine. The drill is absolutely spot on. And it comes out right at the nadir. He's got a like a V-shaped bowl, nicely tapered. Copper, I assume it's copper, band. This is a 9mm version, yes, piano. It's a filtered version. I love the way this sort of swirly sort of colouring meets up over there. It just looks great. Alright, so that's Jordan's one. No worries, Jordan. All the best. Next up, we'll look at Jason Mouton, custom pipes. And he writes on the back of his card, "This is the only pipe I will ever stamp with the M860 for John." Very cool. Nice touch. So that will go with the pipe to whoever wins it. You've missed, this is the second one. The first one, Paul, is the one made by Jordan. Next one is the Jason Mouton one. Absolutely gorgeous pipe. I love the stem on this. Beautiful brindle stem. Lovely colouring. Sandblast as well. Hi Maui. Is Jason in the house? Did anybody see? I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody that's joined. I'll catch up with you hopefully soon. I'm just showing the pipes at the moment. And this one is very, very faithful to the shape. Because he's got the diamond shank, although it's not a proper diamond shank. It's an oval shank, but with sharp sides. Nice bit work over there. This is not a 9mm pipe. And this one is stamped M86, well, kind of an 8. M860 JM for Jason Mouton. And that's a great looking pipe. Excuse me. It's a shame I don't actually have a 673 KS here to show you comparisons, but the idea is actually that it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Oh, and a nicely contrasted, stained, smooth rim. Nice jet black, shiny, sandblasted finish, and he's done that really well. This bit here as well sort of matches the colouring. He's matched the sort of brindle very, very well as well. Fantastic. Hey, Professor Walker. So that's Jason Mouton's, and that's his card. That'll go with it. Oh, I think there was actually a tamper with that one. Am I wrong or am I right? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I've done with that. Just bear with me. I think there was a tamper. Well, I've got a tamper which came with the first one. The first one is this one, but so that was matching that. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask Jordan if he did send one. If he did send one, then I'll have to find it. But anyway, so that was the Jason Mouton pipe. Next up is Sea Smokes. That's Weaver. So that's Sea Smoke Pipe and Pottery.com. Eric Weaver. So that's his. That card will go with it. And here we have a nice chunky virgin briar, his version of the 673 KS. Hi Jason, I've just showed your pipe, so if you want to go back through this you'll be able to check that out. So this is Sea Smoke's one. It's got some really nice grain on it, a nice chunky piece of briar, a little bit of plateau there on the heel, and again this one is a regular tenon, and he also has the shape, you know, the oval shape, a little bit more of a diamond shank but with a rounded base of the shank. So that's a great looking pipe, more of a chunky style if that's what you're into. He's got a coated bowl, and that's very nicely drilled as well, and it's also drilled dead center. I just wish I could find my torch. I don't know what I've done with it. Ah, I've got it. So there you can see the drill there. So this is Jason's one, for those who missed it. Absolute corker, beautiful pipe, lovely smooth rim, which blends really nicely with the stem. If you want to, I went through it in more detail beforehand, but an absolutely stunning pipe and stunning stem work. Nice jet black, glossy sandblast with a smooth rim, matching beautifully the colouring of the brindle, two-tone brindle stem. So that's Jason's, and that's an M860, which he says is the only pipe he'll ever stamp with that numbering. Okay, next up is my pipe. I haven't actually stamped this one yet. So you guys probably saw me making this. This is my version. You've got a little bit of the grain popping through there. Yes, the torch is what you call a flashlight, indeed. It's like pavement and sidewalk. So this one is partially rusticated, partly smooth, and again rusticated on the rim. 9mm. The auction is now fixed for next Saturday night during my London calling. So we've got a week to promote this. So that's my version of the 860. And then we have a couple of late entries. Unfortunately, I don't have Josh's pipe yet, Dragon Briars. But I'm hoping against hope that it arrives during the course of this week. If it doesn't, not much I can do about it. Maybe I'll just do an independent auction just for that pipe. After all, that was the intention. So I hope it does arrive at some point. Next up we have two pipes. Now these two pipes were late entries. They were absolute shocks to me because I didn't know anything about it. But some sly, devious white-haired gentleman that you all know was working behind the scenes to get 2 pipes from none other than the carving house of Medici. I'm sure you can all guess who I'm talking about. So these 2 pipes, not 1 but 2, these 2 pipes were donated by Mike at Briar Blues, pipes that he commissioned from Medici. So I don't really have words to sufficiently thank Mike for his amazing generosity. Just fantastic. You know, it's one thing an artisan carving a pipe, you know, it's not the same as paying a price for a pipe. Of course, there's the cost of the briar, and there's your time and your skill and all of that goes into making a pipe, but it's not the same as shelling out the cost of a pipe. 2 pipes, not 1 pipe. So absolutely amazing, Mike, and you really are an example to us all. Pipe number 1. Absolutely stunning pipe. Perfectly drilled. Neither of these pipes are 9mm, unfortunately. I am very, very unhappy about that. But what can you do? So I won't be able to bid on these. So these are Medici rind, or rind, I don't know how you pronounce it. Italy 40, handmade. They're actually pretty much like a classic author shape, but it's close enough to the 673 for it to be included. Not that I would dare not include it, but just a gorgeous, gorgeous pipe. And as I say, I'm really gutted that it's not 9mm. I'm almost tempted to say that I'll have one of these converted. Beautifully made, of course. Countersunk tenon. Countersunk there. One thing you can see the difference when you have a factory pipe like that. Well, it's not a factory pipe per se, but there are elements, let's say, of a small factory pipe, an artisan factory pipe, if you want. But everything is just so perfect and so clean. I just love the way the finish is just, you know, fantastic. So that's Medici pipe number 1. The rustication is a Sea Rock style rustication, and you've got a bit of a maroon colour coming through. It looks amazing, it really does. Nice smooth rim there as well, with some bird's eye on it. Very, very nice. Pipe number 2. Same shape, but a tan coloured stain on the rusticated finish, Sea Rock rustication 2. And again, precisely done, beautifully done. Nice sort of gentle bend on the stem. Beautiful stem work. Their stem work is very, very precise. Mike tells me that they have a machine. So whilst these are not factory-made stems, these are handmade stems, but they do have a machine that does the bit, so therefore they are always very, very precise, and they're beautifully fanned out and very, very comfortable. Again, not a 9mm pipe, perfectly drilled. Slightly brighter finish on the rim there because the tan is obviously lighter. So that's Medici pipe number 2. So as we are now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pipes. John, I hope so too. I really do. In the beginning, I was a little bit concerned because pretty much as soon as I announced the idea, out came the pipe nook pipes, and I really thought it would steal my thunder, but I don't think it does at all. And as I said earlier on, I'm really happy with the success that Eddie has had. This is kind of a different thing. It's a different niche. It's an artisan sort of situation, so I'm hopeful that it will go well. I did answer your email, John. I'm not going to turn away if anybody wants to donate money. I certainly am not going to turn it away, but I don't think I'm going to turn it into a charity sort of video asking people to donate money. If people want to donate money, they can. But I didn't really want to turn it into that kind of thing. So you guys, you all know my email address, my PayPal address. It'll certainly be up on the. It'll be mentioned all the time during the live next week. And if anybody wants to, all they have to write on it is M860 tribute or something along those lines, and I'll know what it is. And the difference also between one of the differences between these two sort of tributes is this is 100% of the money goes to Matches's family to do with as they please. Like I said, John, if people want to send the money to my PayPal address, they can. Just need to write on it something along the lines that that's what it's for, and it'll all be passed straight over. And anybody who's not comfortable doing that, I could try and find out a PayPal address where you could send the money direct to them. No problem at all. I have no interest in it. It's just a matter of using me as a conduit to pass the money over. No sweat, John, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. So now I'm just going to show you the other bits and pieces that I got. So there were a couple of other items which I was hoping to get, which so far haven't materialized. But what I've got at the moment is this. So Mike, once again, as if he hadn't done enough, he sent this beautiful Dunhill tamper, a tool, basically a pipe tool. It's a white spot. So you've got a tamper, and a pick. It's an original Dunhill. It could even be Bakelite. Mike, do you want to correct me on that? I'm assuming this is vintage, and I'm kind of feeling that it might be Bakelite, but I might be wrong. So there's a Dunhill pipe tool, which will go in the auction, courtesy of Mike. I believe that's an estate tool. Hi Paul, how you doing? Next up, yeah, I've got a bit of a cough. I'm really fighting off a bit of a cold, but hopefully nothing more sinister than that. So I'm smoking really very, very little. Next up is this beautiful tobacco tray. Now what makes this interesting is that this was made by Bob Gregory. And Bob Gregory is a director of Samuel Gowith, and he does woodwork. He makes pipe stands from time to time, and when you go to the Nottingham Pipe Show, he usually has a table with his craft work. So this was given to us by Sam Bramer of GQ Tobaccos. He would have sent me a pipe, but it wouldn't have been anything connected to this. It wouldn't have been a Savinelli 673. It wasn't going to be anything like that, and I really wanted this to be when in relation to the pipes, it should be something relevant to the 673. So there you see there's a little RG, it's an upside down RG, which is Robert Gregory, otherwise known as Bob Gregory. It's I don't know what wood it is, but it's very nice, and it's got like a felt backing on it, so it's smooth. That cough, Tim, is what I often get. If I don't smoke for a day or two, then it does produce sort of stuff from my lungs. You know, if you don't smoke for a few days, your lungs tend to clear out a little bit, or in the morning, sometimes you got to have a good old chest rattler just to clear the cobwebs. And because on the Sabbath I don't smoke, so usually that 25-hour gap, tends to mean that I do this on Saturday nights and Sundays just to clear the cobwebs a little bit. But I have had I'm taking vitamin C all the time. But it's sleep really that my issue is. Yeah, 100%. My wife is very close to us wanting to completely isolate at the moment, but I don't want to get into that chat. You know, it's too depressing, and I just don't want to get into all of that. But thank you all. I appreciate the advice. And the final. Oh, also, this stand comes with 4 packets of GQ Tobacco's pipe cleaners, which is just a nice touch of Sam. Typical Sam's a generous guy as well. He's just the sweetest guy in the world. Stock up on bog roll. The whole country's been doing that. My wife has booked me in tomorrow to go for a big shop. You know, the big shop. So, yeah, so a bit of a smoky throat and a bit of a cloudy head today, but hopefully nothing more than that. Okay, so final item. I think this is a really cool item. Inadvertent evangelism. No, I'm not evangelistic at all. Random video of a rabbi discussing the other day. Which rabbi was it? Yeah. We can maybe get into that chat a bit later on if you want. As I say, I don't want to stay on too long tonight, but let me just show the final item and then we can talk about that. There are quite a few rabbis on who are amazing speakers, but again, that we can talk about as well if that's of interest. Not that I'm pushing Judaism, but just as entertaining speakers. All right, this is the next item. So this is a cleaver, handmade, forged by Chris Morgan. He's recently started doing forging, and besides for pipes, he now sells metal items, metallurgy. And this is all handmade. I asked him to sign it, which he's done. That's his little, you know, the rabbit ears, little insignia there. And he's written here for matches 860. This is a tobacco knife, which is very, very cool. And this is very super sharp. And it comes with a little guard, a leather guard, which is handmade. I've just got to be careful here because that is very sharp. Very, very sharp indeed. Alright, so that, my friends, is all of the items. Absolutely, Tim, that's exactly what it's for plugs and cakes. And even if you're into cubing up your flakes, that kind of thing, would be perfect for that. It's really, really sharp, and it's just the right size as well. Salty dogs, yeah. I actually saw salty dogs somewhere on a site that I could actually get. I think it was in Germany somewhere. I didn't actually order it, but I've just got, far too much tobacco, to be honest. Savinelli, Mike. Well, we did a little bit of a stock up on toilet paper. Not a huge stock up. I told you in one of my previous videos that my wife had bought some. She was in the supermarket buying some kitchen roll, not the loo roll, the kitchen roll. And because they're big and bulky, some women were giving her GBH that she was panic buying on toilet roll, and she pointed out that it was actually kitchen roll, and they backed off. Good night, Steph and Skip. Thanks for joining. Am I still smoking Blood Red Moon? Not very often at all, no. I do have... Well, actually, I put in some Luxury Bullseye Flake into the jar that I had the Blood Red Moon in. I had already cleaned out the jar. And I got a batch of Blood Red Moon, of Luxury Bullseye Flake, put it in the jar, went back to it after a few weeks, and it tasted of Blood Red Moon. And that was after cleaning the jar up. That's how strong the flavour is. But I have a couple of tins in my cellar, but it's I'm not likely to open them anytime soon. I have no temptation for it whatsoever. It's a very nice tobacco, aromatic tobacco, but it really is a heavy aromatic. I wouldn't say goopy, but it's not far off from being goopy. But as cherry blends go, it's a pretty good one. I do like it. But I just don't smoke aromatics really anymore. Not those kind of aromatics. Technically, I do smoke them because I smoke Erenmore and I smoke OGS. So technically, those are aromatic. Yeah, so CBRM, Blood Red Moon. Yeah, I tend to smoke it on days when I don't eat. So if I'm fasting for religious reasons, then I'll smoke it on those days. Hi Daniel, those are all the pipes which are going in next week's auction. I'm not going to run through them again now, but you can certainly rerun the video later, and you'll get a good rundown of all the pipes that are in the auction next week. And hopefully we'll get an additional one from Dragon Briars. With a bit of luck, it'll arrive this week. I am hopeful, I really am, for his sake. I feel really bad if they didn't arrive. How are you doing, Daniel? You okay? The Carolina, Virginia. I might have opened one of them. I'm not sure. Maybe not. I do have a bunch of tobaccos which I haven't opened as yet. It could be not Maui, to be honest with you. Was that the first time you've been, Daniel, to her grave? All the best, Kev. Thanks very much. Tim. That's a crappy joke. Yeah, that's always going to be rough, Daniel, but time Makes it a bit easier. John, I think all religions are interesting for one reason and another. But there are some very, very interesting speakers on YouTube, which if you just want to, and these are not to plug Judaism, this is just somebody just speaking ethics, not only ethics but also things which are really sort of spiritual kind of content about the afterlife and these kind of things, and I think that will be of value to any religious person, not just people of the Jewish faith. It's worthwhile sort of going through the channel and seeing topics which might interest you. So if you're interested, I can certainly... the big hats you wear are so expensive. Yes, they are. They certainly are. The going rate at the moment for some of them is about, for the sort of regular sort of trilby type hat, is a couple of £100. But if you go to the Hasidic people, when they have these sort of round fur hats, you're in the thousands there. You're talking about $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for one of those. Okay, so the one I'm going to recommend to you, I'll only do one because he's enough, and he's probably my favourite. Obviously, some of it you won't get because some of it you have to have possibly a little bit of knowledge of the Jewish religion. But many of it, it's all in English, and for the most part, you'll be able to get the message that he's giving. He's just got a beautiful way of talking. He's got a beautiful tone to his voice, very relaxing, never gets in a you have some speakers who are very, very fiery, fire and brimstone. He's completely the opposite to that. He's so softly spoken, has such a beautiful way of putting things across, and he's just a great guy to listen to, really is. Right, this is the guy's name. Just search his name and you'll find him. That's the name of his channel. You'll either love him or you just won't be interested. So if you do like him, I think you could end up binge watching him for days on end, weeks on end. He's got a lot of content out there. Some of his stuff goes on for an hour or two. As you get higher, the hat gets different. What do you mean by that, Paul? As you get older, as you get higher in standard, and what do you mean by higher? No, it's really different stages of life, Paul, and also tradition. So the Jewish nation is spread around the world, and historically they came from different parts of the world where different dress was traditional. So you'll have Sephardic Middle Eastern Jews who will wear long kaftans, and they'll wear a fez sometimes if they're really traditional, like in Egypt, the fez hats, because that's where they came from. And you'll have the Hasidic type people who will wear on the Sabbath, they'll wear long jackets and the fur hats, because that was the tradition from where they came from. And although it's not a modern day dress, but it's traditional, so they keep those traditions alive. Sorry, Daniel, just reading your earlier message there. I've talked about this many times before, and I think I talked about it last time when your mother had either just passed or was about to. I think it was actually the night that she had just passed, possibly. And I said the same thing to Jimmy Tabaki when he lost. And obviously, I'm not making comparisons here, but the principle is the same. When you lose somebody that you love, there's pain, right? But that pain, what is it? Is it pain for the person that's gone? That's not really relevant, because they're not in pain, they're gone. Now, depending on what you believe in, whether they carry on to another spiritual world or not, but the bottom line, the life that you knew is no longer there. So they're not experiencing any pain. So why are you, when you say that you're in pain, what does that mean? Does it mean you're sad? Does it mean that the sadness is so overwhelming that you call it pain? You get to a stage where you hope to get to a stage, and when people say that time heals, this is what they mean. You get to a point, at least that's what I tell people when I'm talking to people, trying to give them encouragement when they've had a loss in their lives. What you want to do is get across from a stage of that pain, which you call that pain, but that pain is actually about yourself. It's not about the person that's departed. You're in pain because you miss that person, and that's absolutely fine, that's understandable, but it's actually about yourself. What you need to be working towards is actually celebrating that person that's passed. So, you being in pain right now or being sad is perfectly natural and normal, and that's how it should be for a while. But once, that's happened for, I don't know what there's no prescribed period for that. In the Jewish religion, there is a prescribed period for where there's official mourning of 7 days, but then there's a longer period of 30 days, and then another longer period of a year, and then beyond that, then the mourning finishes. But the period of mourning after the 7 days is a much lighter kind of mourning, and it kind of gives you a structure, and it helps you whilst you go through that physical mourning that's prescribed for you in the religion. It also sends a subliminal message to your subconscious, and it helps you get through that mourning period. So by doing a physical period of mourning, by sitting on a low chair and doing certain things, you also subliminally bringing some kind of closure on the loss. It's not closure, it's never closure, but it gives it some kind of structure. So you're going from one phase to another phase. And the important thing is to try to surround yourself with, and to talk, especially with your father, and just reminisce about great times that you had, great memories that you had. So things which bring you comfort and bring you warmth and bring you happiness. So times that you went away on holiday, for instance, where you had a great time with the three of you, and it was just a fantastic time, that you wish you could do again, but you focus on the great time that you had, and you have a laugh about it. And try to just make every time that you think about it a happy experience rather than a sad experience. Of course there's sadness. I'm not trying to belittle or to in any way minimize your sadness. You lose somebody that you were very close with, you're going to be sad. You're sad because you owe them your life. They looked after you or brought you up during the course of your life. So you owe them everything. But the sadness after a while is actually misplaced, because sadness is when somebody passes, it's a shock to the system, even if they were ill. But the actual moment they pass is a transition from one existence to another existence, or to no existence, depending on your belief structure. So that's a shock to the system. So that justifies a certain reaction, a certain sadness, a certain a pain, if you like. But you get to a stage, and as I say, I can't tell you what that period should be, but I would say, a month or two, certainly not more than that, I would have thought. But I think that you have to transition over to the reality. The reality is that they're no longer here. So wallowing in sadness for the next 2 years is doing nobody any favors. You're actually destroying your own life, and that's the last thing you want to do for your mother. If your mother is watching down on you, do you think she'd want you to be sad about her, or do you think she'd want you to be happy about her? Of course she doesn't want you to be sad, because she loved you all her life. She brought you up, and that would go against everything that she's done all her life, because her whole life has been about bringing you up and making you safe, making you happy, keeping you in a safe environment in your home. So the minute she's gone, you're suddenly going to be sad, you're going to be depressed, you're going to beat yourself up. She's certainly not going to be happy about that. And the same with your father. She's had a relationship with your father their whole life. They had a relationship for I don't know how many years. She's not going to be happy if he's sad and morose. She's going to want him to be happy. Obviously, for your father, it's much harder than for you. I get that. Everything is within a certain. There's a certain reality to everything. What I'm saying is idealistic, perhaps to some extent. But certainly, you really want to cross over from being sad to being, obviously not happy that she's passed, but you want to be happy that she was your mother. You want to be happy that she was in your life and that you were part of her life. And the best reward that you can give her is by being happy and by getting on with your life. What was the whole purpose of her life? The whole purpose of her life was to set you up on your own 2 feet. Now, she's gone. All that work's gone to waste if you're not on your own 2 feet, if you're sad and depressed. Her whole life work is down the drain. So in order to make her life work have value, you've got to be upstanding, you've got to be proud, you've got to be happy, you've got to be enjoying life. That's all she wanted in her life. So try and just make it as positive and happy every time the topic comes up. Of course, you've got to be realistic as well. If you go to the grave, that is the right time to be sad. That is the right time to shed a tear. But when you go back and maybe you'll have a little schnapps and you'll talk about her and you'll have a laugh, that's the way to really move over. And also, one thing which is very, very key is that, if your father is sitting around a lot, sort of staring into space, you need to keep him active. Obviously now, with the way things are, you've got to be careful where he goes. A person of that age, you've got to look after him and keep him away from other people. But once this passes, you need to really keep him active, keep him occupied, keep him entertained, and try to build a slightly new life for him. All right, I hope that helps, Daniel. It dried out my throat. I need to have a bit of coffee. Everybody's running off. Good night, John. All the best. I'm just running through the old messages whilst I was yammering. That's no problem at all, Daniel. WV, no, you asked me earlier on if I've set the motor up. I've unpacked it. I've opened up the junction box, and it's a kind of spaghetti junction in there. I'm not an electrician by any means. I can do some basic sparky work. I wired up my garage myself, but pretty much. But there's a whole load of, there's about 8 different cables in there, which presumably I need to go into some kind of control box, which I think we spoke about. So I need to find, essentially, I need to find the company here in the UK that does, I mean, there's plenty of companies that sell motors, but ideally, I need to find one which is relatively local, go in, show them what I've got, and ask them what I need. Something along those lines. No, I didn't make any pipes today. I don't work on a Saturday. After the Sabbath finishes, I do sometimes if there's time, but we started our Passover preparations tonight, so I was busy with that. This is the last pipe I made. And that one has gone pretty much straight away. But this one actually has a stamp on it, almost. LCS Briars, London made. This is not a bracelet, this is actually a pipe stand, which was made by Paul Turnock for me, I think it was. He used to be on the YTPC, but he isn't anymore. The Sabbath for the Jewish religion is on Saturday, the 7th day of the week. For Christians it's on Sunday, and I think for Muslims it's on Friday, I think. Which Balkan blend was that, Mike? Abingdon, nice. I'm not sure if I've had that before. That's one of the cigar tampers. I do have a small one somewhere else, which I'm not sure where it is. This was made by Ruff Works, Rick Ruff, in Bosco. I had a few tampers made by him. That's okay, Mike, I'm alright. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy indeed. This is Dunhill Flake, which I've been smoking this evening, very sparingly. This is the original Dunhill, well, it's the most recent, the last Dunhill Flake, 2017, made by STG, Scandinavian Tobacco Group, who currently make the Peterson version as well. So it's the same version. It's just 3 years old, that's all. But to be honest, I didn't really manage to enjoy it that much. A bit of a smoky throat, so. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, we're 20 past 1. I'm going to go till 1:30, and then I'm going to go to bed as well. It's a good question, Daniel. For me, everybody's got their own preferences, but for me, I just like the presentation of it. I like having a piece of something, you know. You feel like you have a product in your hand, and you can do as you wish with it. Whereas a ribbon tobacco, it's fine, it just doesn't have that kind of feel to it. And with flake as well, you have, as you get more and more experienced, you have the option of tempering your smoke when you have a flake. you can speed up or slow down your smoke by the size of the bits that you create when you rub the flake out. Some people just fold it and stuff it as it is, and that will make for a very slow smoke. You can rub it out completely finely, put it in a blender, which will make it smoke faster. I'm somewhere in between. I just rub it out quite gently, and I have quite big lumpy pieces, and that's how I like it. So I'm somewhere in between. Longer burn Savinelli mic is really depending on how you rub it out, as I was just saying. But if you don't rub it out very much, then yes, it's going to give you a much longer smoke. And it'll be harder to keep alight as well. A broken flake. Well, what we call a broken flake nowadays is something like the McLennan presentation, where you'll have large chunks. So this is McLennan's 40th anniversary. And nowadays what most people mean by broken flake is, you can see these were coming from flakes, but they're into really large chunks. And you can put it in your pipe like that, but not that smokable. See, that's pretty much a whole flake there, but it falls apart. A lovely aroma coming from this. But it falls apart quite easily. So you can have big pieces, you can have like almost whole flakes there. It's basically like a cake tobacco or crumble cake, which breaks up very easily. But it is a flake rather than a crumble cake. And then you really need to rub this out as well. It's quite hard to rub out this. It's interesting. The McLennan broken flakes have quite a brittle structure to them. There you go, that's Mike's position on it. It's because it takes up less room for travel and holds moisture better. Everybody's got their own reasons why they prefer it. Do I smoke much plug tobacco? No. No, I don't. There is one which I've had a sample of, a Revor plug, which a lot of people absolutely adore. I know Tim does. But I haven't really tried it recently. Yeah, RB plug. Yeah, Sandro, absolutely. Fold and stuff is a method which a lot of people use, but as you do have to have patience for that, and I think it depends what you're doing. If you're sitting in your armchair just relaxing, then yes, that's great. If you're doing something else, if you're working or if you're driving or anything else, it's going to be better if it's not fold and stuff. It just, otherwise you're faffing around too much, and it's actually quite dangerous if you have to keep relighting your pipe. I certainly find that with some tobaccos, Paradise pipes. I find that with I've said this before as well, with full Virginia flake. Sammy will go with full Virginia flake. That's a tobacco which will give you lots of different types of smokes depending on how you smoke it, in my experience anyway. Daniel, I can't say that from personal experience, but I've certainly heard it and I've read it many times. that people prefer to smoke from the tin rather than bulk. And people also talk about a difference in the flavour from tin tobacco compared to pouch tobacco. Some people talk about the fact that with pouch tobacco they add extra humescence in there to keep it moist a little bit longer, because the pouches are not as well airtight as a tin that's been hermetically sealed. Well, I assume Boner, that he's saying that bulk compared to non-bulk, so it could be bulk flakes against tinned flakes. Very good, Josh. Bob's chocolate flake is an interesting flake. There was a time when I really enjoyed it. I haven't tried it for a long time now, but it's got interesting flavours in there. Bit of Latakia, a bit of Lakeland, Virginia's, you know. There's a lot going on in there. What flavour profiles you should be getting from your first Weber? Weber as in Virginia Burley? You need to ask some other people about that. Is it a just Virginia Burley and nothing else, or is there flavouring on it? Because I find a lot of times nearly all tobaccos have something added. Not all, but a lot of them do. So you tell somebody a Weber, it's not necessarily going to be the same as a pure Weber. The bowl coatings have worked pretty well. I've used it on a few pipes. Daniel, my rescue pipe that I have in my workshop, I smoke that pretty regularly and it smokes very, very well. And that's got quite a thick bowl coating on that one. What else have I got a bowl coating on? I think I put a fresh bowl coating on one of the Les Wood pipes, on the smooth one, and that smokes fine. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, George, that would be some kind of topping, especially with rat trays. At the moment, I'm not bowl coating really very much. The only times I've used it so far is on pipes where I've had issues on the base of the bowl, unless somebody's requested a bowl coating. But at the moment I'm still leaving them clear. This one, for instance, I did that just to make it a little bit more professional because it was going in the auction, but there was no structural reason why I had to do it. I just wanted it to look finished. But I generally leave mine naked, the bowls, and I don't sand them very much. I sand them a little bit, but not much. I prefer to leave a rough surface on the inside of the bowl. I think that it aids swifter build-up of cake. It's mainly charcoal, WV. It's charcoal and sour cream, actually. But I am on the lookout to find some other method to mix something else to mix the charcoal with. I know some people just do water, and some people do honey. Something that keeps, I don't want to have to keep going out to buy sour cream every time I want to do it, because I use a tiny amount and then it sits in the fridge for I don't know how many weeks and then I've got to chuck it. So yeah, sour cream. The charcoal neutralizes it, and there's absolutely no flavor from it. I've used it, I've smoked it myself, absolutely no problem, and all the artisan carvers that I've spoken to, they do the same. I very rarely ream my pipes. I'm not a smoker where that's necessary. I usually, after I smoke a pipe, I'll tap it out, and if necessary I'll run a pipe cleaner around the edges of the bowl just to get rid of any residue. I've not yet, in the almost 5 years now, 4.5 years that I've been smoking a pipe, I've not yet got any pipe anywhere near to needing to be reamed. And it's not something I'm particularly bothered about. I remember right at the beginning I was worried that my pipes weren't getting a build-up of cake. But, you know, you've got to be smoking a pipe a lot for that cake to build up. And my rotation just is too wide for that to happen. And I don't smoke as much as you might think I do. I'll invariably smoke 2 to 3 half bowls a day. So that's one or maybe 1.5 bowls of tobacco a day. And that's it. I don't smoke that much. I smoke it over a long period of time, perhaps. I mean, this pipe, and it's still not finished, and a half a bowl of Dunhill Flake. I started it around 8 p.m. I'm now, I don't know, 6 hours later, 5 hours, 6 hours later, and I still haven't finished that half bowl. Yeah, I understand that, Mike, but I want to find something which is completely sort of non-active, if you like. That's not going to go off. I would have used honey, but the problem with honey is that it doesn't dry very well. And water, I think once the water evaporates, I'll end up with a bowl full of charcoal powder. And I think that's what I had with, I'm not going to say the name, but I've had pipes from a certain pipe maker. I've had a lot of his pipes in the past. And when I got them new, they always, if I blew into the pipe, a huge cloud of charcoal would come out of the pipe. And I don't know if it's just that he dusted it with dust, and that's all he did, or if he actually mixed it with water, and once the water evaporated, and then went back to being powder. I don't know. I think the general accepted thickness for cake is to be about the thickness of a nickel. You don't want it to be more than that. If it gets too much, especially if you've got thin walls in your pipe, when the cake can expand with the heat and it can actually crack your pipe. The right consistency. Yeah, it could be, Mike, I don't know. I have not got any experience with cake. I used to worry about it in the beginning, you know. I used to think it was that I wasn't a proper pipe smoker if I didn't build up cake, but I can see that after 4.5 years of smoking a pipe, and none of my pipes have any major, they've all got a thin coating, but none have got a major thick coating, and I just don't worry about it. So this is my LCS Rhodesian, and there you can see a fair build-up of cake there, and that was a naked bowl when I started, and you can see that it's a little bit wider at the bottom because I don't smoke the last bit of the bowl, and this one has been smoked pretty well. Northern Briars, Quebec. Similar kind of situation. Nothing major. But you can see the same kind of pattern, that it's only till about 2/3 of the way down, and then there's no cake beneath that. And that's because of that's my smoking pattern. So when I say half bowls, it's even less than that because I very, very rarely smoke to the bottom. The only time I smoke to the bottom is when I'm having one of those really special smokes where it's just, I can't stop because it's so great. And then I'll go right to the bottom, but usually doesn't happen. Also because of how it works, because I smoke in the morning, in my morning drive, and I'll usually have around half of whatever I put in the bowl when I finish that drive, and then when I'm on my way back from that drive, I'll try smoking it, and it won't taste so good because it's been sitting there for a few hours, and I'll just leave it, and then I won't smoke it. I'll go home, I'll get busy doing stuff, and sometimes I'll light a pipe, sometimes I'm not. More often than not, I'll go into the garage, start a new pipe, and once I start working on the pipe, I very rarely smoke. So usually what will happen is I'll, at some point, some juncture, I'll have a little bit of a break, a coffee, and then I'll have a smoke. And if I've worked a long day, I really enjoy that smoke. But so as I say, more often than not, it's like 2 half bowls, sometimes 3, and sometimes that'll be topped off by a cigar. What's due to those darn filters, Mike? That I don't enjoy the taste of it, is that what you mean? I should change the filter in mid-smoke, is that what you're saying? Is it normal to have a rim char on the shank part of the rim? What? I'm not sure what you mean by that. The shank part of the rim? Don't know what you mean. Do you mean the face of the rim? Do you mean this here? You certainly wouldn't have a char there. And over here? Do you mean on this side here of the rim? Ah, I see what you mean. You mean this area here? That will really depend on the shape of the pipe and how it's bent. This is something which Mike taught me. If you have your pipe in your mouth like that, then when you're smoking it, the heat is rising up straight, and when you're lighting it, it lights up straight. So all the heat is hitting the back of the bowl. Since Mike taught me that, I'm always very careful when I bend the pipes, when I bend the stems, to make sure that it's horizontal with that. So when I'm clenching, the pipe is upright, like that. If you have a bent pipe and it's not, this isn't bent enough, then what you end up having is this kind of situation. So the heat is going in that line direction there and hitting the back of the bowl. One of the many lessons that Mike has taught me. Hey Josh. Quit your Josh and Josh. Remove the filter and man up, says Mike. I got my hands, assuming it arrives safely. A good friend on the YTBC bought me 3 tins of the light one, of the regular XX, not the dark one, and I regret not ordering some of the dark as well. But yeah, I'll have the light one coming along. The reason why I got them, it was not because I was chasing the hard to get blends, it was because it has Orientals in it, which I'm kind of looking into these days. Well, that stuff, George, I don't know if you've got any tools or any buffing stuff or anything like that, but before I got into pipe making, if I wanted to clean my pipe, oftentimes what I would do is take a baby wipe and I would wipe the rim. The problem with that is that it takes the sheen off, but the truth of the matter is if it's black anyway, you've lost that sheen anyway. So that's what I used to do. A baby wipe gets through all of that grime. Just be careful not to get it on the rest of the bowl, and just keep going round and round in a circular motion. You wrap a baby wipe around your finger and just go like that around the rim, and that will take the vast majority of that black char off. And if you've got an ability to buff it after that and bring the shine back, then all the better. I've kind of done similar things to that, Daniel, but yeah, maybe I'll do that again. I mean, that was kind of what Andrew Sirigliano was doing with Mike. I don't know, he did a video on it. I thought he was going to do a series of it, but I think he just did one in the end. Yeah, I mean, you can burn the wood. That does happen, George. Oh, you've done two, Andrew. Okay. If you burn the wood, you burn the wood. You know, it's up to you how far you want to go with that. You can send it off to a pipe restorer to sort of they'll sand it down back to the original wood. But you do have to bear in mind that when you do scorch it, that actually can go quite deep and quite far down into the bowl because the briar absorbs. And sometimes you could just keep sanding and sanding and sanding, and it will still be quite dark as a result. So it's not always worth it. If it's a favourite pipe, if it smokes well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what I say. Pipe burnout is smoking it too hot, and if it's got thin walls or a thin heel. Yeah, it can also happen with mortar as well. Mortar, what's his name, had a perfect example of that. Cobbett of the Shire, Stephen. I made him. He bought a mortar pipe off me, and he smoked it for a couple of weeks, and the whole inside of it just caved in. And that's because they vary in density quite wildly, and some of them are just they crumble. So I've made him another one. I hope he's happy with it. I hope he's smoking it as much as he's smoking anyway. Have I ever showed the 9mm filters that I use? Yeah, sure. These are the ones I use. Dr. Pearl Jr. 9mm filters. So there's lots of different ones that you can get. So this one's got the ceramic or meerschaum cap on one end and a plastic cap on the other. The plastic always goes to the stem side. Sometimes you get meerschaum on both ends, but for me these are the ones that work. I've had the Peterson ones, I've tried various other ones, and they're all pretty much the same, but I've always settled on these. I think people automatically assume because it's dark that there's something else in there which makes it more interesting. But I was specifically looking for somebody recommended it actually. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Savinelli Mike, I'm not sure. But somebody mentioned it on one of my lives. I was talking about moving to sort of experimenting with Oriental tobaccos, and they suggested, do you know that smoking pipes have just brought one out? So I went over, headed over, had a look, and I almost pulled the trigger on them. And I just read their disclaimer at the bottom, which said that we fully declare the tobacco. So I just pulled back, and I put a video up asking if anybody would be prepared to get it for me. Somebody said yes, and that was it. For 6mm filters, you can get the White Elephant brand. But I will tell you that the 6mm are not like the 9mm. The 6mm tend to be a little bit harder to draw through. And that's why otherwise I would have bought 6mm Savinellis a long time ago when I was buying sort of Savinelli factory pipes. But I stick with 9mm. And the balsas never really worked for me. They might work for you, but for me it wasn't enough. And it's the 9mm which work for me. Alright, it's 1:43. It's nearly 1:45. I was going to stop at 1:30, but I'm going to say thank you very much to everybody. Thank you for joining. Please do promote this auction if you don't mind on your channels. I'd really appreciate it. We want to try and raise as much as we can for the family. I'm really pleased to see how much is already going to them from Eddie. That's fantastic. So let's see if we can raise some money as well. Good night, Paul. Good night, Rocking Steady. Good night, Andrew. Good night, Joe Fish. Good night, Tree. Good night, Sandro. Ciao. Good night, Conrad. Good night, Bona, Glenn, Daniel, Smoking the Ghost, Vortis the Destroyer, Glenn George, the one and only Eyebrow. Thanks for joining. I didn't see you there. Good night, Mike, Paradise, WV, Jeff, thank you very much. Andrew, and everybody else. Thank you very much for joining. I look forward to seeing you during the course of the week, hopefully all being well. Thanks Uncle John and Jay Piper. And of course, next Saturday night, around midnight as usual, we will get cracking with this auction. I will be putting up videos talking about it, how people can bid if they want to do silent bids, you know, not during the live auction. They can send emails. I will be, hi Leffa, good night. So there will be options if people want to put bids in advance, they can do that too. One of the pipes already has a $300 bid on it, so we'll just start straight off with that, and we'll take it from there. So thanks very much everybody, and I will catch you on the next one.